this sense of a community, that we did this. Now that's county, so that it will have an entire
need. Hopefully, in the years to come, that money continue to be there. It's needed. Our families appreciate it. We appreciate it, and I can tell you, there's not a dollar that goes to waste. So.
This will, maybe I'll take this on the House floor when we north of the forest region there. A great deal has been accomplished, but to join you for this, I'm going back up to Chisholm for the.
The CDBG program has been eminently important in the revitalization of Duluth. So far, only released a pro rata share of 1996 funds for these programs. It amounts to 45% of the total fund. There are some
It looks like this has been a mechanical failure, not a pilot error. And Cirrus, as well as FAA and NTSB, are anxious to find out what went wrong so that it can be corrected for the future.
Right. I mean, the boat we actually wound up better out here. Twice as good. Right. I mean, what it did, houses are selling.
What do you foresee in the upcoming election? Well, they'll always accuse me of being the one-issue candidate. I mean, I can build hospitals and I can build roads, and they'll still tell the world that I'm a one-issue candidate just because I'm strong on the pro-life. That's not true. I call those people the one-issue people because they'll do anything to remove you just because of that issue.
This kind of information. The very fact that somebody was curious enough to try to construct an explosive is a serious matter. It suggests a problem not only for that young man, but it suggests a problem in our community, which I think we have to address.
Retention time works.
Residents in the Chambersburg Avenue area of Duluth spent this morning wondering what mall expansion will mean for their neighborhood. Some say more mall space will mean less peace and quiet for them, and they blame politics for that.
We will have more of the mall here now than we had ever before, which is such a disappointment. If the mayor had this happen in his backyard, that would be another story.
Residents in the immediate mall area voted heavily against both expansion projects, but now that one of them has passed in their own backyard, residents are now hoping that mall developers will keep their promises.
Oh, their promises haven't meant anything before. They've said they've worried about the environment, and they never did.
Frustration was apparent today. Many residents already resent what they consider arrogance on the part of developers.
Our first meeting with Simon, we went and they said we were told that we were to inform the residents of Chambersburg. This is what we're going to do when you can't stop us. That was their attitude, and that's been the attitude all along.
But it's more than simply sour grapes. Residents are worried that the city will also forget them once the dust is settled.
And they can make all the promises that they want, but in 4 years when you have a new mayor, new city council, they're not going to remember all this.
In Duluth, Jeff Pappas, Channel 6 News.
Parties targeted during this operation? It was just a general operation, basically to send a message to the criminal element that we will not tolerate drugs being transported on the highways in the state of Wisconsin.
Life's insistent melody, overlapping 168 seconds of silence. Exactly 1 year after a bomb robbed that many of life.
It has been a
to talk, and I said, you know, let's talk about some of your concerns, not specific to the agenda that they had laid out. They had a specific one. No, I tried to talk, as did the chief of police, and they kept saying, no, we don't want to talk about that. Basically, we want a certain number of meetings, we want to set dates and times and places, and that's it. We don't want to hear what you have to say right now. And
well, can I just read to the mayor that there's a problem in the city? We went there today, and his only response to our concerns was that we joined this committee called 2001 and the police task force. We find such a response insensitive to our community and highly racist, because we were treated like little boys and little girls who didn't have a concern.
Oh, yeah?
Agencies. As these changes are happening, how do we guarantee that the people who need our efforts? Now it gives me guarantee. You make a major difference to quality of life here in Duluth.
on behalf of all of us citizens that you serve in our community, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Mayor's a very busy guy, as we all know, and he has to rush off to another event. We appreciate him taking the time to be here today.
Drugs is that's approved for trial and so on.
I've seen in results of some of these earlier.
The time put in on it, and the indictment alleges the distribution.
We want to deal with narcotics and firearms prosecutions in this area, even where the standards might not meet those of prosecuting cases in the Twin Cities, because it is better to nip crime in the bud here in greater Minnesota.
Before it starts. This kind of leads me into, as the air raid sirens go off, we have all kinds of fun down here.
Tornado in Duluth today?
Yeah, it's Tornado Awareness Day. I think it's really going to be a major thing.
Why did you get it?
Because I wanted to know about the technology. I didn't want it to pass me up. And I thought I'm not getting any younger.
But now, nothing passes by this 91-year-old great-grandma.
Is checking my password.
Welcome.
Now I'm on it.
When Madeline Olin was born, her home had no electricity and her family used gas lights. But times have changed. She bought her first computer just over a month ago and has been net surfing ever since. Madeline moved to Duluth in 1930 and left most of her family on the East Coast. She soon found out that the computer is an easy way to communicate with them and others she meets along the way.
You've got mail.
I had a letter from a friend of my granddaughter's and who wrote me as soon as I got online on email, and he said, I'd like to be your pen pal. He's about 25 years old.
Her pen pal doesn't know he's writing to a woman nearly 4 times his age, and her family can still keep an eye on her thousands of miles away.
No. It's a way they think they have of checking on me, keeping me online, or in line, however you want to put it.
Madeline says she's happy she didn't pass up the chance to cruise on the information superhighway.
I love it.
And she says she doesn't let her age get in the way. Being 91 doesn't bother you?
Oh, am I 91?
It doesn't bother you being 91?
That's what I mean, I forget.
In Duluth, Kim Steininger, Channel 6 News.
She's quicker than I am. Windows 95.
In Duluth, Minnesota, I'm Kim Steininger for NBC News.
Lots of things in there.
Microsoft.
Is that about it? The good stuff?
Microsoft.
Oh.
That's right, isn't it? Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see what else.
Change my habits nevermore. Be scared of rabbits if I only had a knife. I'm afraid there's no denying.
That's what's been causing our problems. So we are going to have to do some long-term research and find out what our best solutions are. But from all indications, I believe that we'll be looking at replacement of the current system.
Keep walking out there in the camera looking at
No. Yeah, that was last one. I asked him for my driver's license at home. Courthouse, I just gotta read it.
And some nice warm rain, and it could. We've had 7 months of cold.
I certainly would like it to open up because opening weekend is a very big weekend to all the businesses in the area, and it would be a shame to have it be down too much.
You're looking sort of drowsy. The Sandman's not far away. He'll have you dreaming.
Here we go. We're in. We're in.
reputable, and we're interested in hearing what he has to say. And we do feel that this would be
In addition to Spirit Mountain, although we're not this time either supporting or not supporting the issue, we're waiting to hear what he has to say.
It's time to plant the vegetables, and yes, we have a short growing season, but don't let that prevent you from getting out and planting the vegetables. The cool weather crops do really well, although here we have some garlic, and I picked some. It smells incredible. Also, there's ways around to extending the growing season for your warmer crops like the tomatoes and the cucumbers. It's time to plant the vegetables, and yes, we have a short growing season, but don't let that prevent you from getting out and planting the vegetables. The cool weather crops do really well, although here we have some garlic, and I picked some. It smells incredible. Also, there's ways around to extending the growing season for your warmer crops like the tomatoes and the cucumbers. It's time to plant the vegetables, and yes, we have a short growing season, but don't let that prevent you from getting out and planting the vegetables. The cool weather crops do really well, although here we have some garlic, and I picked some. It smells incredible. Also, there's ways around to extending the growing season for your warmer crops like the tomatoes and the cucumbers.
Those are all Brussels sprouts, one of the best things that you can grow in this country. They do well in this heavy clay soil, and the entire cabbage family are anti-cancer foods.
Some other hardy vegetables ready to be planted are cauliflower, cabbage, lettuce, peas, radishes, spinach, beets, and onions. These cool crops thrive in the Northland, but don't forget the warm crops.
The thing that you see back over here is called a cloche, but a plastic row cover is a lot better. We use that to speed up the season. Now I've got tomatoes and peppers set out there already.
The plastic coverings act as a greenhouse, and even on cloudy days, they will increase the temperature up to 25 degrees, allowing Art to pick tomatoes into early November. Tomatoes, peppers, and other warm crops normally are not ready for the garden until the first week of June, but it's worth the wait.
We like corn. It's you can't beat it with you know, butter running off your chin and one thing and another, and that stuff that you get in the garden, that's better than what you can get in the supermarket.
I'm meteorologist Mickey Prangley, Channel 6 News.
Hey, Garrett, that's less water. so consequence.
There you go.
Oh, it splashed me.
Got him in there now?
Oh, they're going great.
Looks like everybody hit the water, too.
Oh, yeah, they just waded very well.
They need 4 main things: water, shelter, space, and food. And if they live in captivity, they usually don't have space. They don't get as much food, and they probably don't have good shelter.
Okay.
And they just don't get as much room, so they get sick easier.
People that say to you,
6-year state representative Becky Laurie announced her campaign to run for the endorsement for the 8th District Senate seat. She says she's running against Florine Chmielewski because she says people need to have faith in their government officials.
Senator Chmielewski has done wonderful things, it's true, but his and others' breach of ethics has overshadowed the good work of the entire legislature.
Laurie is speaking of the recent PhoneGate scandal. Chmielewski was charged and sentenced after friends and family made hundreds of long-distance calls at taxpayer expense with his Senate telephone access code. Laurie says ethics and integrity and the principle of the DFL party are the highest of priority.
It would be actually an embarrassment for the people in this district to return to St. Paul someone, no matter how well he is liked, who has pleaded guilty to a criminal gross misdemeanor charge, who has to date avoided the Senate Ethics Committee, and who has dismissed his guilt and blamed others for persecuting him.
That's a big part of it, is that
You have to have people reasonably willing to participate in mediation for it to work. You know that.
that's over. But I don't think one subject matter is any more important than the other. I think it gets right back to jobs, labor issues, education, the bread and butter stuff.
Doing, and this guy is walking his dog, and the dog stopped, and he's frantic that he's going to get run over because he's. These officers will be in unmarked cars so that it'll be easier for them to find these violators. People do tend to obey the law when they see a squad car, but we need them to obey the law all the time.
Most of it.
That occurred restitution of these calls to deny that he had made
use of the telephone.
But one of the reasons I personally felt that it was important to proceed with this complaint and get closure on it was to get closure on the issue for the 1996 legislative session and to prevent further proceedings or questions about this matter in the 1997 legislative session should Senator Chemaleski be reelected. I think that Senator Frederickson and I
They just smell a whole lot worse than the can.
Oh.
Although this one isn't bad compared to Spike. I would bet that's why. No, that's their main weapon.
So there's only 3 of them that live in here?
4.
Oh, 4.
I've only seen 3 at one time. That's why. He is such a character. He was hand-reared. He was actually born by cesarean section. His mother was hit by a car up near Grand Rapids. So he's been in captivity his entire life.
Trash was about as bad as usual. We tried to hit that pretty hard in the afternoon, maybe yesterday afternoon. So we don't have too much to deal with this morning. Actually, the guys that leave at night, the late crew that's sitting here, they get a fair amount of that out of the way at about 2 in the morning, too.
It seems like no matter where you live or what you do, they can find you. Each year in this country, telemarketers rack up billions of dollars in business, all by reaching out and touching your wallet over the phone. Some are legitimate, some are not, but all of them know how to find you and find out what interests you.
There are unbelievable lists out there. They are so demographically concise that it would amaze you. I mean, you can find by somebody's nationality, by how old they are, by what their hobbies are.
Helen McMurray is with the Ohio Attorney General's office. Every day she gets calls too, not from telemarketers, but from those who are trying to dodge them. Just like the annoying stacks of junk mail that fill our mailboxes, the torment term of the 90s is junk phone calls. And if you've got a phone, chances are you've gotten a few yourself. Every time you get one of those calls, you may wonder to yourself, with all the people in the world, how in the world did they get my name? Well, you'd be surprised. If ever you filled out a raffle ticket or ordered anything through the mail, you've given them your name. And they can buy and sell that just like the merchandise they're peddling.
They call you. They know you're a sucker. And I am that.
In Margaret Shipley's case, someone somewhere knew she loved to play the lottery. So lottery companies started calling her from all over the world.
I've talked to Pennsylvania, I've talked to New York, I've talked to Florida, I've talked to Australia, I've talked to all of them.
When they got her on the phone, they got her to buy a chance at a fortune. Companies would sell her hundreds of lottery numbers in dozens of contests, and most of it was probably legal, though many, like Mrs. Shipley, feel confused and cheated.
I mean, I never, ever stopped thinking, well, maybe one of these days I'll have the lucky ticket, you know. Right. Who doesn't?
So what can you do? There are new laws in the works that will transfer the power from them to you. For months, Margaret Shipley was inundated with telemarketers selling lottery tickets. She bought into their pitch and ended up buying $8,000 worth of them over the phone. The more she bought, the more they called. Finally, to keep her from being bothered anymore by the telemarketers, her son stepped in and took drastic measures.
I've taken pretty much everything from her. I've routed her mail through my local business, and so they cannot get her. I changed her phone number and did not give her the phone number. She can't give out what she doesn't know.
What some telemarketers don't want you to know is that you don't have to go through all of that just to keep them from calling you. In fact, lawmakers are constantly drafting new legislation that gives you the upper hand in turning them down. In fact, here are some laws in place already that you may not have been aware of. You should know that telemarketers can only call you between the hours of 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. If they call any other time, tell them they are breaking the law. They must tell you who they are and who they're with as soon as you answer the phone. And if they tell you you've won a prize, remember, you don't have to pay anything for it. Some try to tell you you have to purchase their product to claim your prize, but that is illegal. And if you just don't want to deal with them, there's always one more thing you can do.
One thing you can do is to use a new FTC rule, which is the do not call list. And you basically tell that person who calls you, put me on your list, they're required by law to have it, and don't call me again.
No one believes these laws will end telemarketing altogether, but they may certainly slow it down, as long as consumers like you realize that you are in charge and not them.
So we're hoping now that we can get new insight to the new Congress in Washington to help us regain some of those entitlements, because World War II veterans are suffering from diseases and whatever that are just now coming out.
It's real difficult to have those type of relationships, but it's
there's a sense of paralysis, I would imagine, that would set in. They want to be able to do something. They feel that they have to be able to change this somehow, change what's going on in the community, but really don't know how to, or have some ideas but don't know how to put them in place or get them moving.
My wife was on the phone and there was a glow in her face, and I really didn't know what had happened, but I knew it was a good excitement, and I felt very, very good about it.
You can say goodbye to the frantic freeway because soon it will be a smart street. The automated highway system will use thousands of these underground magnets, linking a special sensor on your car to the roadway. Then a cruise control type device takes over and, look Ma, no hands.
That's ridiculous.
You don't buy it?
No.
Why not?
I don't know, it just doesn't sound real.
Yeah?
Sounds like it'd be too good to be true.
Caltrans says the future is only 6 years away. By 2002, 7 miles of carpool lanes along Interstate 15 between Poway and La Mesa will be ready to roll. The $32 million project is designed to move traffic quickly and consistently, kind of like synchronized swimming. But with this system, nobody will slam on the brakes.
The computer systems certainly have much better response times than humans. So in terms of safety, we expect to see great increases in safety.
Experts believe they can double the number of cars on the road, cut fuel costs and smog with slow, steady driving.
It could be a dream. It could put me out of business. But actually, it will. Anytime we can move traffic faster, more effectively, and safer, we're happy.
Not everyone is smiling.
Now all we need are cars that can drive themselves.
And then they wouldn't need you, right?
Take me right out of business. I'm a truck driver. I'd need to be driving.
And there's one more advantage. Imagine being pulled over for speeding on this new freeway system. You can tell the officer, hey, it wasn't me, it was the car. Vicki Vargas, Channel 4 News, San Diego.
If Judge Hallenbeck's decision is ultimately upheld, what this would mean is that the only option available to us for collecting some of these charges will be the property taxes. I think the question is how much.
It may not look quite like the stereotypical park, but it's North River Hills Park in Burnsville. This part of it hasn't been mowed in at least 13 years. But this year, the North River Hills Park natural area, as it's called, is being expanded by about 7 acres. A budget consideration.
Citywide, we're trying to cut back about 75 acres, which saves probably $17,000 annually. But then we also can get rid of 2 mowers, which is an addition to that. And that's an annual cost every single year. We'd have to spend $17,000.
Parks Director Randy Oppelt says reducing mowing is one of 56 ways they're cutting expenditures in Burnsville's budget. But this is also saving the environment.
By not mowing it, that means you also don't have to fertilize it. You don't have to spray with herbicides. It's time-consuming to go around each tree. And one of the things that hurts trees the most in parks is mower damage.
Parks Director Oppelt says despite the fact there are more areas not being mowed, areas around picnic shelters and playgrounds are being mowed short as would be expected. But Randy Oppelt is a little uneasy. Other nearby environmentally friendly budget cuts have received, well, when the Minneapolis Park Board made a similar decision last year, even board members protested.
Well, I don't like it. I don't think it fits.
So the effort to save money and make environmentally more friendly city parks is expanding. But park managers are watching carefully to gauge the response. Ken Speak for NBC News.
Howdy, Captain. How's fishing today?
Beautiful summer weather and fun on the water go hand in hand, and the DNR is making sure safety is part of that equation as well.
We need to see your fire extinguisher, so we're out here to be a reminder to people, and we're hoping if they see that, see our boat, they can think safety.
And what the DNR is doing, not only this weekend, but all summer long, is pulling over boaters and jet skiers to make sure everyone is up on safety regulations.
Okay, are you aware of our laws?
Absolutely, I think they're a good idea. We're just out here to have fun, and if we have to comply by them, so should everybody else. And not only that, we don't want anybody else out here not complying with them, endangering our lives also.
For jet skiers, you must stay at least 100 feet away from anchored boats and from the wakes of boats. When riding, you have to be wearing a life jacket, the bracelet that hooks to the ignition, and have a fire extinguisher on board. Roger Antonich of Duluth didn't know that, and now is a hefty price to pay.
We'll make sure to get fire extinguishers in them now. And so that's something I learned today.
The new life jacket law is something people should learn when boating. They must be readily accessible for every person on board, and for boats 16 feet or longer like this one, there must also be a throwable device ready like these boaters have. The DNR hopes all the added education not only cuts down on accidents, but increases fun.
Resolution passes unanimously. And resolution 5.
It's my opinion that the council will approve that document. It is a positive document. In other words, there are no deficits projected.
It would be illegal, in other words, to require union publicizing what the Republican very fair working wage. But I heard about this ad in Charlton. This is a scapegoat issue that the people that are opposed to that use, that you're hurting the people that you're actually helping. But if that was the case, there would be a lot of people that wouldn't even be making minimum wage today if minimum wage hadn't been set at $4.35 previously. Now that's just an issue not unlike cigarette smoking isn't habit forming.
Are we overdue?
Sunset on the outer edge of the Boundary Waters canoe area. It's nature's gift to be cherished and protected. If not, we might never see wonders like this again. A snowshoe hare in her mouth, the wolf, unafraid, coexists with human neighbors on the fringes of the wild. Randy Hermanson and his daughter and their friends say they like the BWCA's Sawbill Trail area best, partly because it's so quiet.
Not that I have anything against boats and motors, because I don't. I go fishing in them all the time. This is a wilderness area, and I'd like to see it stay that way.
Wilderness is a lot like love. You know, nobody can really define it. The greatest poets can't define love, yet we all know it when we feel it. And wilderness is the same way. It's a feeling inside a human being.
Bill Hansen's views are not shared by everyone around here.
You can have a wilderness area and still have motors. Many, many people think that. Look at the people leaving right now. They're going into the wilderness area with their motor, and they're going to enjoy that as much as that guy that paddles the canoe.
Motorboat advocates like these men say it's not them, but rather some canoeists who need lessons in protecting the BWCA's delicate natural balance. BWCA rules forbid more than 4 canoes gathering in one area. This group of 5 was camped on an island on Basswood Lake.
The motorboaters respect the land as much, if not more, than what a lot of the canoeists do.
The ban on trucks means motorboats need to be pulled and pushed by hand between lakes where motors are permitted.
Don't let it run over him.
Your legs are just burning. That's pretty tough. And it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. You got motors here and motors on the other side. Why would a little piece of land make a difference?
We've got lots of lakes in Minnesota and lots of national forests in Minnesota where you can use motorized vehicles. It's nice to have some places where you don't have to have motorized vehicles and you don't have to hear those motors.
These are my people. These are my ancestors, and they need to be protected. For now, after the desecration Sunday, a lot of us feel this way. A lot of us feel like this needs to be protected.
Harsh rains and floods have taken a toll on the Northland. This dairy farmer raises at least 50 cows, and since it's been wet, it's delayed work in the field.
Yeah, there's been a lot of rain. We like to get our hay mostly done in June or start by the middle of June, and here we are in July, and we're just on our second field, our second farm rather.
She says the persistent rain has cost her time all summer long, and that will eventually cost her money down the road.
It's been growing too long. It's tall, the stems are broad. The ground here is pretty good. We're on sandy soil here, but on some of our other places we rent, it's clay, and it's a lot of wet ground, and it's hard to get big machinery out.
Even earlier, the rain was coming down in Superior, and these construction workers say the rain has also hurt them.
If it's raining in the morning, we get show-up time. But if it rains during the course of the day, well, we just put everything away and try again the next day. We haven't got a full week check-in for, I would say, 3 weeks now, so it does have its effect on it.
Meteorologists say the temperature should reach the mid to high 80s next week, and this could help some Northlanders get back on track. In Duluth, Tamika Snowden, Channel 6 News.
For example, this character, this cartoon character, Old Joe, is more recognized now than Mickey Mouse by 6-year-olds. 91% of 6-year-olds recognize this character. Steve O'Neill, and
all those in favor of approving the report as a whole, say aye. Aye.
Somewhere in here we will come up with the answer, but
it's recommended that the revised wording of this policy be approved for the second.
Students gain safe passage to adulthood and become successful in the workplace as parents and in our community. Thank you again for your support thus far. I'm confident with you.
My first reaction was just pity for the families of the people on board, because I can imagine how my mother would feel if I had been in that crash, you know.
wounds. Well, the first step toward meeting these objectives.
10 counties around there that are very poor. Some will go from 11.9%, 11% unemployment.
Dictates in Washington and management by edict. Unfair and unwise regulations have been handed down without solicitation of public input. The views of the people who live in the community surrounding the park have been ignored, and the accountability of the National Park Service to the people they are supposed to serve has evaporated.
So that they will not fill in, and our fishermen will be able to make...
Let you turn your testimony to writing.
I think I can finish this up, Mr. Chairman, if I may. So that they will not fill in, and our fishermen...
6 for males.
It's just so good to have people have the information. These offenders are out there, and what do we do about it?
Every police department in the state will know exactly what to do now that the statewide committee has finalized its plans. Officials are hoping the new policy will work.
It alerts us to the most violent offenders, and so that we can't fall prey to the most common tricks. It's not going to cover everything, but it's a good start.
Notifying people will depend on public risk. If a sex offender has a low chance of a repeat offense, the state will only notify the local police department, victims, and witnesses. If the offender's risk is deemed moderate, schools and daycare centers in the area will also be notified. But a risk level 3 will automatically require a community meeting be held in the town to tell everyone where the sex offender lives.
They haven't even given him a slap on the hand.
In recent weeks, we've seen the ugly side of this issue. Some Lake Elmo residents retaliated with violence when convicted sex offender Fred Keenan returned to his home. He was assaulted in his own backyard.
It's just time that they're made to stop. You know, it's time people get on with their lives and leave us alone.
Officials say the newly required meetings will be designed to prevent vigilantism by giving residents tips and everything they need to know to prepare.
The community has the most to lose if they blow it. If they really make this kind of an outrageous venting and get really kind of crazy about it and start burning, stoning, throwing, all that kind of stuff, the legislature may say, you know, this isn't working.
It's just so good to have people have the information. These offenders are out there, and what do we do about it?
Every police department in the state will know exactly what to do now that the statewide committee has finalized its plans. Officials are hoping the new policy will work.
It alerts us to the most violent offenders, and so that we can't fall prey to the most common tricks. It's not going to cover everything, but it's a good start.
Notifying people will depend on public risk. If a sex offender has a low chance of a repeat offense, the state will only notify the local police department, victims, and witnesses. If the offender's risk is deemed moderate, schools and daycare centers in the area will also be notified. But a risk level 3 will automatically require a community meeting be held in the town to tell everyone where the sex offender lives.
They haven't even given him a slap on the hand.
In recent weeks, we've seen the ugly side of this issue. Some Lake Elmo residents retaliated with violence when convicted sex offender Fred Keenan returned to his home. He was assaulted in his own backyard.
It's just time that they're made to stop. You know, it's time people get on with their lives and leave us alone.
Officials say the newly required meetings will be designed to prevent vigilantism by giving residents tips and everything they need to know to prepare.
The community has the most to lose if they blow it. If they really make this kind of an outrageous venting and get really kind of crazy about it and start burning, stoning, throwing, all that kind of stuff, the legislature may say, you know, this isn't working.
A woman I talked to the other day, she gave information that she's probably been holding on to for at least 20 years.
So do you think that there's any chance that anything could come out of some of these old murder investigations?
Well, we always plan on solving them all.
Options for solving the interest process, which will be used then, hopefully, to read. The second part of that is that the committee is protocols. During that time,
committees. And so what we're attempting to do is design a mediation process to where we can handle both of them roughly parallel. so that there isn't, one doesn't sit on the back burner, and so that we can make progress on trying to bring resolution to both the Boundary Waters and the Voyagers disputes.
Fix these tracks, make them safe. If that's the only way that they can live, by running that poison through here, then make this safe for us, all of us, because we all drink the same water. We all live on the same earth.
Musculature at all, and don't move, we presume that they're not really innervated like a normal leg would be.
Okay.
We have no way of knowing at this time. Since we don't really have any data on cause and effect right now, it'd be premature to really use this as an example of other effects, or as a warning of other effects.
Can't go out and buy more of it in that case.
With this, it's going to be tough focusing with this.
I can try to.
This is where we fail, according to the experts, in the early education years. The problem is in the core subjects, reading, math, science, and social studies. How Minnesota fared in these areas was assessed in the national report. It shows the state must dramatically upgrade the contents of these subjects. Duluth Superintendent of Schools agrees, saying we must do a better job of teaching our children the basics.
We need to focus on the primary instruction and skills that students need. We have to eliminate fluff courses, and so we are auditing our curriculum, K-12.
The report lists some basic areas which need immediate improvement, including a united effort to raise academic standards and then a method for national and international comparison. One of the areas the Teachers Federation suggests Minnesota is falling behind internationally is in technology. But Duluth Superintendent says more and better computers is not the answer.
A computer will not teach a child to read, and they can't use a computer without reading, and they can't use the information they get off the computer without being able to sort it.
Finally, the report stresses there must be an end to passing students from grade to grade regardless of whether they've learned the material and met clear standards. The Federation encourages the use of state standards and assessments as a factor in determining whether students should be promoted. Duluth School Board members say they will consider this report as they work with the superintendent on shaping the future of the district. In Duluth, Barbara Riles, Channel 6 News.
Well, there's a lot of teams, a lot of teams that play here. There'd be a lot of fans being here, and, they can't, sit in something like this. It needs to look, somewhat decent.
I know that the Blues Fest office is probably going to take a few hours off to recuperate, and then they're going to be right back on it planning the schedule and the lineup for next year. There were more people there Friday afternoon than I ever remember seeing. I mean, it was just, I think, the weather also adds to it. People are able to sit out and enjoy it a little bit more when it's not raining.
At first glance, these crowds don't exactly seem to mix. Their worlds collided head-on at the invitation of someone who's lived in both of them.
Touch nothing. I said, I ain't laying my hands on nothing.
Matt Gober mixes his own troubled past with humor to bring hope and faith in a higher power to people who might live in a dark reality.
We smoked a lot of herbs, and I thought, God, you created pot. I said, and God said that it was good. I said, it sure is. My pastor did his best to convince me God wasn't talking about the same kind of herbs that I was smoking.
It may be hard to believe that someone who once rolled joints in Bible pages and ran drugs and guns would be credible, but his message that it's not too late hits its mark with the group he's trying to bring into the light.
He hit bottom, and I don't think I've hit bottom, but it's time for everybody to change.
I read his book right after I first became a Christian, and it was just like somebody wrote my story. And it delivered me out of a lot of hurt and guilt.
It even works for the people who already believe.
Kind of put it in layman's terms as far as went over a lot of different good information that sometimes it's a little hard to understand in the big book.
I felt real honesty coming from his heart, very much so.
Gober says he doesn't intend to strip the bike and its meaning away from people with his message. The charismatic speaker professes God would ride a Harley, meaning he would use any method to get to those who need him.
I think if he got those colored sheets, he'd send them back to the girl because he wouldn't, I wouldn't think he'd keep those. He would just keep the sports
People have already started back to school shopping. We saw it starting about a week ago, and it's just picking up and gets heavier and heavier every weekend until school starts.
I like that one. Under that one. Under that. This one? Yes. No, not that one. That. Maybe not. You know, why are you gonna pick one of these? It'd be bitter.
Yeah, look at this place.
It's a day of mixed emotions for Paul Vanderheyden. He is cleaning out his locker and picking up his very last paycheck from the company he gave more than 8 years of his life to. The Duluth branch of Food Services of America closed its doors today officially, and with that, 76 employees are looking for new jobs.
Well, it just came out of the blue. You know, the company was closing and it was over with. So I'm glad it's over, you know. I mean, my life is now going to have some direction, you know, instead of sitting at limbo.
The Duluth branch of the Seattle-based company is merging with its branch in Fargo, North Dakota. More than 300 people will be affected by the consolidation announced 2 months ago. People like Paul now worry about their families and making ends meet.
So you're going to be able to make as good a living as you did here right away?
It's going to take me a while, you know, bringing in that buck we were making. It was it's hard to find that.
This is the warehouse where Paul and dozens of his fellow workers spent their lives dedicated to the company. But now, as these warehouse shelves sit empty, they must take with them those memories and start over.
But as far as looking for work, no, I didn't take any of the help that, you know, they offered here. You know, right now I guess I gotta just take it day by day, you know, and hopefully this sales rep job will turn into something pretty good.
Hi. I'm going to give you a prepared statement, and then I'd like you to leave the property.
Company officials had little comment about the closing and the displaced workers, other than to say they've done what they can.
And this move made it possible for us to be more competitive and to provide better service to those customers.
As for Paul and his former co-workers, they now move on.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the people that were here were the best.
In Duluth, Ann Carroll, Channel 6 News.
Bring 4 up to 5, guys.
With lots of help, jockeys prepare for their start. And they're off, competing in the Carlton County Fair horse races. Close to 50 competitors came out to play a role in this event. A winner from one of the 9 races says he was especially pleased because he won racing the horse he owns.
It's my own horse, and she just didn't perform yesterday, and today she just came out and did what she was supposed to do.
Organizers say jockeys have competed on this field for years, but 2 years ago the track received a major facelift.
The track used to be shaped like an egg, and when they were coming out of the corner on number 4, there was a very sharp corner, and the horses had a hard time negotiating it. So thanks to the Minnesota Air National Guard, they came out and worked with the County Fair Board, and we developed a class racing track here in Minnesota.
New track or not, fans say the nostalgia of the track keeps them coming back.
Sonny's daughters, and I rode here as a teenager. We had saddle horses.
I used to ride pro rodeo, so I was I usually was at rodeos and whatnot. So now I kind of retired from that, so I've been coming up here to watch the races.
This couple says they've been coming to the races for about 20 years. They say it's the best part of the fair.
We've been part of the county for a long time, and we enjoy the fair, and we love the races. It's our highlight.
But after numerous races, the anxiously awaited thoroughbred race takes place. And a graphic designer from Duluth takes first place. She says it takes a lot of time to prepare for the race, and right now she's feeling the payoff from all the hard work and time invested.
I'm feeling so good. Just about perfect right now. A little out of breath, but I'll tell you, I'm out of breath because that was so thrilling. It was real fun.
In Barnum, Tamika Snowden, Channel 6 News.
We have to understand that some students won't have that support. We have to, as it is humanly possible, try to provide that support, lest we give up on another generation.
Normally the traffic doesn't go very fast there. There really isn't any reason to run off the road like that.
Well, it's made the warm weather stuff later, such as like corn and tomatoes, which are the big draws. However, a lot of your cooler weather crops, potato, root crops, your cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, didn't really affect them.
This murder is unusually frightening because the victim and the alleged murderers were strangers who met only by chance. Although suspects have been apprehended, that does little to ease our fears.
Duluth Mayor Gary Doty says we shouldn't let this tragedy create another tragedy of mistrust in our community. He says we should not let this incident affect the way we treat our neighbors, but some citizens are now more concerned and more cautious.
I think people just have to be careful, and you can't trust anybody anymore. So anyway, I hope the police deal with it, and the justice system as well. I hope they deal with it.
I think in any city, anything can happen at any time. So just have to be careful.
You have to be cautious when you're driving, no matter where you are, if it's in Duluth or in Esco, or Two Harbors. And there are people out there that are going to do something to take advantage of you in any situation. And you got to be aware of that.
The folks that came in tonight, they had been on two fires in Oregon. One of them a total of 18,000 acres. and the other is much smaller one, less than 1,000 acres.
Okay.
She chose not to seek an abortion. She chose to carry this child to term. She chose to bring this child.
Should be, and it's my belief too. In the past, that's good, but we need to be consistent in
Columbus. Just a moment. You are with the OR 728-4446 and 724.
That kind of approach. We need to pull together. We have to forget about the color of our skin and say violence is not acceptable. If we are really going to create a community that holds abuser or people that commit violent acts accountable, we need to pull together and not look at race.
One of the hottest primary elections in Wisconsin is for the Douglas County Sheriff. 4 candidates are running to be the Democratic choice for the general elections in November. Edward Anderson, a patrol sergeant for Douglas County, says the county's problems lie within the department.
We need to negotiate job descriptions with our union employees so that everybody knows what it is they're supposed to be doing when they come to work. And then we need to develop an evaluation systems.
Former Sheriff Dick Lindbergh, who works at the Massabi Work Release Program, says the department needs to correct the problems within before they can solve the county's problems.
Is bring the department together in a common effort, under a common theme, and get all the differences out and get them taken care of and out of the way.
Larry McDonald, who works in the Maple School District as a liaison officer, says juvenile crime needs to be a top priority.
Last few years we've seen an increase in crime with the juveniles involved, and my slogan is service through communication, and with that in mind I communicate with everyone.
Communication seems to be the key for these 4 candidates. Al Peterson, a patrol sergeant for Douglas County, says working from the top down doesn't always work.
Use the knowledge that you have within the department. I think there's a lot of intelligence that goes unused, and I would be one to seek the input from within the department and from without.
Only one of the 4 candidates will advance to the general election. In Douglas County, Molly Boyum, Channel 6 News.
The Midwest has typically been the place that they've drawn from to get people to provide assistance in disaster. And it has. It's tired some of our disaster workers out, as well as strained our own budgets.
People can't go out there and be relief workers. How else can they help contribute to the United Way, or to the Red Cross?
Well, there's a couple of ways. I mean, they can, if they don't want to be a
The Child's Delight Daycare Center occupies a prominent spot in the heart of downtown Faribault. But here, health officials say they've discovered the state's largest outbreak of E. coli bacteria this decade. 16 people have already been confirmed with the infection, 10 of them children, 6 of them daycare workers.
Most of those are children in the infant and toddler room or staff who work with the infants and toddlers.
E. coli is a sometimes fatal strain of bacteria, usually associated with undercooked meat. When the first cases started showing up in Faribault last week, the center closed its infant and toddler rooms, but remained open for older kids. Health officials aren't yet sure how the bacteria got into the center, but once it got here, past experience gives them a pretty good idea how it spread.
Because of children in diapers and the amount of handling that these children get and the behaviors of putting things in their mouth, transmission probably spread among the infants and the toddlers at the center.
Denise Sludwick has 2 children at the center. Neither is sick, but one was in the toddler room. Still, she says she doesn't blame the daycare center.
No. They like it here, and we're happy with the service, and I don't think it's the center's fault that, as far as we can tell, it wasn't food that was prepared incorrectly here. It was brought in from the outside. So.
Bayfield County Sheriff Ralph Neff says his department is experiencing a shock after one of its officers lost his life in the line of duty. Sheriff Neff says each one of them will be debriefed and evaluated.
And then we can determine who can go back to work and who can't. And then the big crunch comes with the funeral. And after the funeral, then we'll be having a full debriefing program for everybody involved.
But who it might scare the most are officers in training. Students here at the Hibbing Law Enforcement Training School are receiving hands-on training before entering the force. Even though they've received training here, the instructors say the best experience doesn't come from a classroom.
We can only present hypothetical situations to the students. Everything we do here is in a protective environment. So we try to make it as real as possible, but again, the students know they're going to leave here safe, and we can't create the real environment of what some of our streets in this state have become.
After hearing about the shooting of Deputy Richard Parquette, these students say it scares them but makes them more determined.
Of course you're going to think about, especially us, we're students here going into law enforcement. But it makes, to me myself, it makes me want to take this more seriously. And it makes me want to try harder, and it makes me want to learn. So then the same thing doesn't happen to me out on the street.
Yeah, it makes me apprehensive and stuff. It just kind of reinforces to always stay on your toes and, expect the worst. Like that when it.
He was willing to assume, as every law enforcement officer does, an awesome responsibility, and one that we ask of no one else other than our law enforcement officers.
Somewhere in there is where I went.
I couldn't get under him to save my life. Yeah, I got 15 of them yesterday.
Defendant Andy DeVerney requested a delay of a week before his arraignment, saying he just met his attorney for the first time yesterday. Lester Greenleaf and Jamie Lee Abbott will have their cases heard by Judge McCauley. Though they didn't enter a plea, they both acknowledged that they understood the charges against them. John Alexander Martin, Jamie Lee Abbott, and John Stephen Martin came before Judge Dale Wolf. Judge Wolf appeared upset by the fact that John Stephen Martin appeared without an attorney. He told the judge that his family is trying to raise the money to hire a private lawyer. But Judge Wolf was very firm in saying it's taken him too long to get a lawyer and said he would appoint a public defender in the meantime. Chief Public Defender Fred Friedman said he is concerned about Martin's lack of representation to this point.
I'd say it's holding it up a week or two. As you can see, they asked me to come back next week, so I don't want the public to have the impression it's holding it up months, but it's holding it up a week or two, sure.
Carleton County Prosecutor Marv Kettle said he will not allow Martin's lack of an attorney to hold up the proceedings. He went ahead and asked each of the defendants to provide palm prints and blood samples to be submitted to the state crime lab.
There was a lot of blood that was found in the Antonich vehicle, including in the trunk and other portions of inside and outside the vehicle. And for that reason, we want to obtain blood samples of all of these accused individuals for comparison purposes.
When 17-year-old Paul Antonich was brutally beaten, shot to death, and stuffed into the trunk of his car, a shocked Northland united in mourning. A growing shrine marks the spot where Paul Antonich was dragged from his car to begin his odyssey of terror. Now, Northland taxpayers must bear the brunt of the cost for bringing the men charged in Antonich's death to justice.
Of course, the taxpayers are responsible for both ends, all three ends, the prosecution, the defense, and the investigation. It's the way it is, a lot.
I-Team 6 has put together an estimate of the costs involved in this case, including arrests, housing, prosecution, defense, and eventually trials. The initial arrests of the 5 suspects began what will eventually amount to an enormous bill in the Northland. Hundreds of officers, vehicles, and dogs from St. Louis, Carleton, Pine, and Lake counties participated, plus police from Duluth, Carleton, and 2 harbors. Even a helicopter was used. Carleton County alone spent almost $13,000 for its role. Then there's the cost of incarceration. In a typical murder case, the defendant is housed in a Northland jail for approximately a year. At an average cost of $50 a day, that incarceration for the 5 defendants will run more than $100,000 when you add the additional costs, including extra guards in the jail and for court security. Each defendant is required to have his own attorney, and each attorney will need an investigator. 4 of the 5 defendants have an attorney paid for by taxpayers. Only one of the suspects has hired a private lawyer. The average minimum cost for a private murder defense is $50,000, but it can easily run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Public defenders are on salary. Those assigned in the Antonich murder case are part-time public defenders with an average state-funded salary of $48,000. Each lawyer will hire his own investigator for an estimated $20,000.
They need their own investigator because, of course, when you have co-defendants, not everybody agrees on what happened, and it's inconsistent.
Then there's the prosecution. That includes the county attorney's time, investigation and lab work, judges, law clerks, court administrators, and eventually jurors. And defense attorneys have said they will seek to have individual trials, making this 5 times the cost for taxpayers. Our calculations run the cost to taxpayers into the millions of dollars. And I-Team 6 sources say these costs could be nearly doubled if a change of venue is granted. Barbara Riles, Channel 6 News.